This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning to all. Uh, we were discussing regarding the ethical committee. So, how an ethical committee has to be constituted, and the rules are set by the ICMR. And for any ethical committee, it has to be constituted under the CDSU, Central Drugs Standard Control Organization. CDSU is a one of the regulatory body in India. So the ethical committee has to register with the CDSU. And we also discussed like how many members has to be there in an ethical committee, and how the members has to be distributed. Uh, like it should be multidisciplinary, multi-sectoral. Then 50% should be from the from the institute itself, and the remaining 50% non-affiliated to the institution. Then we also discussed the functions of the ethical committee, like the ethical committee not just have to approve the study, like the proposal will be submitted to the ethical committee and the ethical committee has to approve it. After how they will approve, they will go through both the scientific aspects as well as the ethical aspect, that is they will do the scientific review and also the ethical review. Then they will give once this review is done after discussion, they will provide whether like their approval status, and their function does not end there. They have to do the continue, the review has to be followed up. The study they have to follow up, they have to do the site visitation if it is required. Then they have to continue their process of monitoring, not during just the initiation of the study. They have to give the approval, and also for all the approved studies they have to ensure that the ethical compliance is there throughout the conduct of the research. So once they give the approval, their duty does not end there. They have to continue their to monitor the all the approved researchers. Whatever the researchers they have approved, they have to monitor them, and they have to ensure that the all the ethical guidelines are complied by the different personnels involved in the clinical research. So not only just approve, they have to also continue monitoring them. So why ethical committee is required? So we should be able to tell this. It is always to safeguard the dignity, rights, safety, and well-being of the research participants. So ethical committee is a body like exclusively to to provide protection for the uh, research participants. So they have to ensure that it is the responsibility, that is the most prime responsibility for like to ensure all these right, safety, well-being, and dignity of the research participants. They have to do this, go through this approval process, and all the ethical guide and compliance also has to be ensured. It is basically the main objective of the ethical committee is that the right, safety, well-being, and dignity of the research participants are preserved. Then we discussed like how the ethical committee has to be formed and who all can be the members. Then we were discussing like each member, like what are their qualification and also what are their roles. The like we discussed the chairperson and chairperson, or sometimes chairperson also can be appointed, but it is optional. So the uh, chairperson's qualification, so he should be a well respected person from any background. with prior experience of having served in an ethical committee. So you should. This is the qualification of a chairperson, and it is not. It is important that they are non-affiliated. They should not be related to the institution. Then, like for all the ethical committee members, they should have. They should not be having any. They should not be caught for any misconduct and all. They should have a good record. Like all the ethical committee members should have a good record, good past, their past history. Their life should be like should not be they should not be any involved in any court cases and all. They should have they should be well respected and should have good record. All the ethical members. Then we also discussed the roles and responsibilities of the chairperson. So he is the person who will be conducting the ethical committee meetings. Then he'll be the person who is ratifying. He'll be the person who will be signing the previous minutes meeting. Then he should ensure participation of all the members. Then conflict of interest declaration he has to get from all the members. Then, if any complaints are there against researchers and ethical committee other members, he has to handle that also. Then, in case if he is absent, he should nominate any other person as the chairperson or acting chairperson. So these are the responsibilities of the chairperson or vice chairperson. Then we have a member secretary. Member secretary also the member secretary must affiliated to the institution. He should be working in the institution. So he should be a staff member of the institution and should have knowledge as well as experience in the clinical research activities. Then then he also have he also should have a sufficient time to involve in all these ethical committee matters because he has got a lot of role. Right? We discussed that also. He compared to the chairperson, the member secretary is having more roles. He is the person who is um, organizing the meeting, scheduling the meeting. Then he is the person who is preparing what all aspects has to be discussed. Then he also has to ensure whenever uh, some new guidelines are there or something some training is available, he is the person who has to ensure that all the ethical committee members gets the proper training. Then every ethical committee should have an SOP, standard operating procedure, and that SOP needs to be updated, and it is the member secretary's role. Then whenever any audit or inspection is there, he has to prepare for that. Then all the documentation things has to be completed by the member secretary. Then when research proposals are submitted to the ethical committee, he is the person who will be receiving the each proposals and he will decide what type of review each proposals will be requiring. Because for ethical committee, there will be different kinds of review. So there will be expedited review, exemption from review, etc. So expedited review means a quick review. So for certain studies which are involving not much risk, if the study is not involving any risk or any interventions are not there on for human participants, then a quick review or expedited review is sufficient. Then exemption from review, certain studies where there is no intervention at all and the people's human participants identity if it is not revealed, then in such case those studies does not require any review. So exemption from review and the complete review. Complete review is a normal review procedure that is done in those studies where proper interventions are done on patients. So it is a member secretary's role to decide whether the study requires expedited review, exemption from review, etc. Then next is next person is basic medical scientist. So the ethical committee should have basic one or more than that basic medical scientist. So he can be affiliated or non-affiliated. So this basic medical scientist can be included from the institution or from outside. Then the qualifications are he should be it can be medical or non-medical with qualification basic medical science. Then in case if this particular ethical committee is involving clinical trials with drugs, then it is preferable that the basic medical scientist be a pharmacologist. So those studies, those clinical trials which are involving drugs, then it is preferable that the basic medical scientist be a pharmacologist. That is why it is said that it can be a medical or non-medical person with qualifications in medical science. Then roles and responsibilities of basic medical scientist. So this basic medical scientist, he so far we have seen like chairperson or member secretary, if we take, they were involved in the active participants of the members, or scheduling the meeting, documenting the things. All those were the functions of the chairperson or the member secretary. So the basic medical scientist function is the like one of the major functions, because they are responsible to review the scientific as well as do the scientific as well as ethical review. Basic medical scientist has to do the scientific as well as ethical review. So scientific means, I think we discussed before, scientific means whether the design is proper, whether the inclusion exclusion criteria is properly defined, then sample size calculation is appropriate. So all those are scientific review. So if something goes in the wrong in the scientific review, the entire study will not be, the result will not be reliable. So because we cannot take risk, because the study is done on human beings, so it should be done in a serious manner. So it is important that all the scientific aspects, the design, inclusion exclusion criteria, sample size calculation, all those has to be the appropriate ones. So the scientific review part is also important. So it is one of the basic medical scientist is one of the person who has to do the scientific um, review, and also ethical review. Ethical review is whether everything is done according to the ethical guidelines. Uh, that in a nutshell, we can say, and the human participant should not be exploited. So ethical as well as scientific review uh, has to be done by the basic medical scientist, and their role is they have to concentrate more on the intervention part. For example, if the clinical trial is involved with the drug, then he has to concentrate in that area, uh, like related to the drug. Then he also has to see the benefit risk analysis. So benefit risk analysis is he has to see to it that the benefit outweighs the risk. So benefit risk analysis, then research design, that is the scientific one. Research design, methodology, sample size, then site of study, and also the statistics. All these um, he has to do. So scientific and ethical review he has to do with special emphasis on the intervention, benefit risk analysis, research design, methodology, statistics, and also continuing review process. Then the serious adverse effects, SAE, serious adverse effects uh, has to be like done very seriously, because whenever a particular drug is used, maybe if that particular drugs class, if some other drugs of the same class has already been marketed, then to some extent we can predict the adverse effects. So potential adverse effect, he has to um, see all the potential side effects, and he has to categorize whether that potential adverse effect is a serious one or not beforehand itself, so that this can be foreseen, and like measures can be taken on, or like how to avoid it, or if it happens what can be done. All those plans can be made before. So it is the basic medical scientist um, role, because if like if he is a pharmacologist, he'll be knowing more about the serious adverse effects of drugs in a particular class, etc. That is why it is mentioned a pharmacologist will be preferable if the intervention is the use of drug. Then he also has to assess whether some protocol deviation is there. So this will happen like once the study is approved, again the ethical review will be done, scientific and ethical review will be done, and during that time he also should see that whether the study they are uh, undertaking the study according to what they have mentioned in the already submitted protocol. So first they'll be submitting the whoever is doing the research, they'll be submitting a protocol, and once the protocol is submitted, the ethical review will be done, then approval will be given, and when they undertake the study, again in between the study also some review will be done, ethical and as well as scientific review. During that time, the basic medical scientist should see that whether they are doing the study according to the protocol or not. So he has to identify if any protocol deviation is there. Then he has to also see the progress as well as completion report. So once the study is in between, the researchers has to submit the progress report, like how the study is progressing, and also once the study is completed, they have to submit the completion report. So these also has to be reviewed by the basic medical scientist. So these are the and also if it is a clinical trial, then the pharmacologist has to review the drug safety as well as pharmacodynamics. So pharmacologist would be the appropriate person to do that. So these are the roles and responsibilities of a basic medical scientist. So there can be one or more than that basic medical scientist in an ethical committee, and they can be affiliated or non-affiliated. Affiliated means related to the institution, from the institution itself, or non-affiliated from outside the institution. Then can be medical or non-medical. Then in case if clinical trial is with drugs, then the pharmacologist is the preferred person. Then their roles are uh, scientific and as well as both scientific as well as ethical review he has to see, and he has to specifically see the scientific as well as ethical aspect with regard to the intervention. Then he has to also see the benefit risk analysis, uh, like whether benefit is more or risk is more. Then research design, methodology, and statistics, as well as continuing review process. In continuing review process, he has to see whether serious adverse effects are um, considered or they are dealt in a proper manner. Then whether protocol deviation is there, how they are submitting the progress as well as completion report. Then in case if he's a pharmacologist, he has to review the drug and safety pharmacodynamics. Next is ethical committee should also contain like include clinician or more than one clinician. So he also can be affiliated or non-affiliated. Then qualification is individual with um, recognized medical qualification, expertise, and training. So he should have proper training, medical qualification, medical degree he should have, and also should be an expert and has undergone proper training. So that is the qualification of a clinician. Then his roles and responsibility. Clinician again is involved in scientific review. of the protocols, such as the review of intervention, again same benefit risk analysis, then research design, methodology, sample size, site of study, and statistics. So the scientific review part, he should be more involved or more concentrate on the scientific review of the protocols. Then he also has to see ongoing review of the protocol. That is serious adverse effects, how they are dealing with the serious adverse effects, whether any protocol deviation or any change from the protocol or completely they are violating the protocol. Then and also the progress and completion report. Then he also should see review medical care facility and appropriateness of the principal investigator. So review medical care of the patient participants. The clinician has to review whether their participants are receiving proper appropriate medical care, then at what facility they are placed, and whether the principal investigator is an appropriate person. Then whether there are sufficient provision for medical care management, and also any compensation is given. So these are the functions of the clinician. He also should thoroughly review the protocol as well as the investigator's brochure. Investigator's brochure, I think we discussed, is what the sponsor gives to the investigator, like all the aspects pertaining to the new chemical entity, like the preclinical data, then from the new drug discovery, what all data is available with regard to the new chemical entity, such as all the preclinical data, all the reproductive studies, animal studies, then carcinogenicity studies, all the results, and also if any other information from other clinical trials regarding the particular drug is available, that also has to be included in the investigator's brochure. The sponsor is the person who prepares the investigator's brochure, and it is his responsibility to update the investigator's brochure whenever new data is available, and this will be given to the principal investigator. The sponsor will hand it over to the principal investigator during the initiation of the study. So here the ethical committee people, the clinician has to review the investigator's brochure also. Then and also the other protocol details as well as the other documents. The clinician has to review all these. So these are the basic responsibilities of the clinician. Mainly, they have to do the scientific review of all the protocols, of the intervention as well as the benefit risk analysis, scientific review such as research design, methodology, sample size, site of study, and statistics. Then or like once the study is already started, then again they have to go for ongoing review of the protocols, and whether any serious adverse effects are happening, then how the researchers are dealing that. So see those patients for which some serious adverse effect has happened, then they have to be it has to be immediately reported. The sponsor has to immediately report it to the ethical committee, and they also has to submit like what steps are taken in such patients, like what compensation is given, or what medical like what they do to manage the serious adverse effects. All that will be submitted. So this particular clinician has to see that whether these management part is proper, like how they are managing the serious adverse effect is appropriate. So he has to see that. Then protocol deviation, whether they are deviating from the protocol or whether they are violating the protocol, they have to see that, and also even the completion report. Then clinician also can review the medical care. They can they'll understand whether the medical care given to the patient is appropriate or not. So they have to review the medical care. Then they also has to see that whether the facility, whether the facility and also the principal investigator is appropriate to give medical care. Most of the time, the principal investigator is the physician only. So it is the physician's responsibility to give the medical care. So the clinician in the ethical committee can they have or they can assess for the appropriateness of the medical care being given to the research participants. Then he has to review the protocol, investigator's brochure, and also all the other documents submitted to the ethical committee. So these are the roles of clinician. So there can be one clinician or more than one clinician, and who can be affiliated as well as non-affiliated. Then qualification is that they have to have this medical degree from medical degree which is recognized, and also should have expertise and training in the particular area. Next is legal expert. So legal expert also can be affiliated or non-affiliated. Then qualifications are they should have a basic degree in law from recognized university with experience. Then it would be desirable if they have training in medical law. So this is the qualification of legal expert. So a legal expert also needs to be a part of the ethical committee, and they can be both affiliated or non-affiliated. So one or more legal experts can be there. Then qualification, they should have basic degree in law from a recognized university, and also they should have proper experience. And then if they have training in medical law, then they are more like such people would be more helpful. So these are the qualification of legal experts. Then their roles. So legal experts, they have to see only the ethical part, only the ethical review they need to see. They don't have to see the scientific review. So basic medical scientist has to see both scientific as well as ethical aspect. Then clinician, majorly they have to do the scientific review, and legal expert, only the ethical part has to be reviewed. So they have to concentrate on the ethical review of the proposal, and they have to see all the informed consent document. So informed consent document is like we have to give when the participant is recruited to the study. So some advertisements will be given in the website or through any other means if participants are recruited into the study, and they'll be interviewed, they'll be asked questions, and they will be given all the information that will determine or that is all the information that they should know to decide whether or not to participate in the study. All the information will be given. It will be explained orally, and it will be written in a or written or any material. It will be given to the participant. So when they come for the study, when they become a part of the study, they will be explained everything orally, like all information that is required by them to decide whether or not to participate in the study. All the information will be explained to them, and it will be given in hand, either as a writing or any other means like hard copy, or it will be given to them. A copy will be given to them, and this particular document, along with their declaration, uh, on which it will be written, like I am aware of all what is happening in the study, and it by like I'm voluntarily agreeing to participate in the study, and I know that I can withdraw from the study at any time. So there will be a declaration like that, and the participant has to sign that, and there should be a witness also, and this witness has to sign, the principal investigator has to sign. So all this document together is called as informed consent document. So whenever a human participant is coming to the study, they have to be it has to be explained to them everything regarding the research, and all the information it is in it so it in whatever form we give in writing or as a print material, it should contain all the information regarding the study that is um, like all the information, so that pertaining to study that is related to their agreement to participate has to be present in that particular document. So here the legal person has to see in the informed consent document that like whether all the information is there, which will determine the which is helping the participant to agree or disagree, whether everything is there, all the risk is there, all the risk associated with participating in the study, all the potential benefits they are going to get, like any compensation that will be given, any information on that, then if any incentive is being given, all the information regarding that, it all has to be present in the informed consent document, and it is this legal experts job to see that it is proper. So ICD has to have all the information to the participant, and also should have an agreement, and in that agreement it should contain the voluntary part. uh, the the participant has to sign in that agreement, which says that the participant knows that all the aspects of the research, and he is willing to participate, and in that it should also be mentioned that he can withdraw from the study whenever he wants. So these information should be there, and in that agreement the participant should sign, and also there should be a place where a witness, and this witness should be impartial. So impartial witness should sign. So whether all these are present in the ICD should be reviewed by the legal expert. Then this ICD should also have like ICD should be translated. It should be in the regional language. Uh, because the ICD should be translated to the language that can be understood by the participant. So the translation also should be there along with the informed consent document, and this should be back translated also. So how the legal expert will know whether the translation is appropriate? Sometimes like the all the legal experts may not know whether the like all languages, all regional languages. So in a place like Bangalore and all, there will be people with from different regions. Like they'll be speaking, some will be speaking Tamil, some will be speaking Kannada, some will be speaking Malayalam. So whoever is involved in the study, the ICD should be in their own language, and the legal expert of the ethical committee may not know all these three languages. So uh, the researcher has to submit ICD with whatever translation has been given to the participant, and also it should be back translated. Means first the particular ICD has, maybe it will be in English, then this English will be translated to a Tamil, and this Tamil translation will be given to some language teachers, and they have to back translate it into English, and they have to sign it. So if it should be a government employee, government teachers must sign it, read it, and back translate it and sign it. Then the legal expert can, if he doesn't know the language, he can very well say that this particular ICD is made very appropriately. So the ICD along with translation and also back translation has to be submitted, and this has to be reviewed by the legal expert. So that is one major function of the legal expert. Then he also has to review the MOU. MOU is Memorandum of Understanding. So MOU is like they are, all the MOUs are like, some people they can make tricky MOUs. So some points which they will keep and which will be having problems later. So it is a responsibility of the legal expert to assess all the MOUs, Memorandum of Understanding. Then clinical trial agreement. So there will be when a sponsor appoints an investigator, he has to prepare an agreement where the investigator will sign. So sponsor will be appointing the investigator and he'll be making a clinical trial agreement. And on this agreement, the investigator has to sign. And in that agreement, the sponsor will be giving all the duties that has to be done by the investigator. So, and certain responsibilities will be given to the investigator, and investigator has to sign this. So whether these clinical trial agreements are appropriate, and these not just between the sponsor and investigator, even between sponsor and CRS, clinical research associate, sponsors will be giving off some of the duties to the some companies. So they even then also some agreements have to be made. So legal expert has to review the that agreements also. So all the clinical trial agreement, the legal expert has to review. Then regulatory approval is we have discussed, I think, in IND application. Once the preclinical studies are done successfully, the sponsor has to submit investigational new drug application to the regulatory authority, and if they have given approval only, then we can go for clinical trial. So that regulatory approval has to be submitted to the legal expert and he has to review that. Then insurance document. So we know the clinical trial is involved with certain risk. So some potential risk are associated in the study, and participants' life would be in danger in like if this like there are certain cases where sometimes even death of the participant can happen, or some uh, permanent damage. So it is always better if all the participants are insured. So the insurance agreement and all has to be reviewed by the legal expert. Then then other site approvals. Some studies are multi-centered. So same clinical trial can be done in different site. So that's called as multi-center site. Even nowadays we can see in different countries also this same trial will be the same sponsor will be doing the study in different countries. So it is or in the same state, different places, in the same country, in different states. So the study can be multi-centered. So so in order to like if we want to do the study in another country, then again we have to get their approval. So their approval statements, all those has to be assessed by the legal expert. So in case of a study is done in another site, if it is a multi-center trial, then the site approval also needs to be assessed by the legal expert. Then researchers undertaking. So this is the investigator. Investigator will be submitting that he will be responsible for all these matters. So he will give an undertaking. So that has to be reviewed by the legal expert. Then then protocol specific other permissions. For example, stem cell committee for stem cell research. So if the research we in India we have another body which will give approval for studies in stem cells. So stem cells we know they are stem cells studies on stem cells. It is a separate category, and we have a different body which gives approval for that. So for stem cells, there will be stem cell committee, and we need their permission. So that permission letter and all will be assessed by the legal expert. Then HMSC for international collaboration. So HMSC also is a very it is also a high level committee. It is health ministry screening committee. So this is these committee will take decision whether like if it is an international research proposal from outside a country, from another country, if they are interested in doing this research, then they have to approach through the HMSC, Health Ministry Screening Committee. So if the US wants to do a clinical trial in India, then they can't simply come to a place and do the research. They have to approach through this particular committee, Health Ministry Screening Committee, and they will decide whether they need to give approval for studies or proposal from outside studies. So this HMSC will be giving approval or disapproval, and the legal expert has to see the HMSC, whatever is being given, that has to be assessed by the legal expert. Then compliance with guidelines. So that is there. Ethical guidelines are there. So legal expert has to see whether the ethical guidelines are complied or not. So these are the roles of legal expert. So legal expert can be affiliated or non-affiliated. Then qualification, basic degree in law with experience. And if he has knowledge about medical law, then such people are more desirable to be in that position. Then their major role is the ethical review part. So ethical review has to be done by the legal expert, and they should see the informed consent document, very appropriate, whether it is appropriate, whether all the information is there, whether signature for the impartial witness is there, whether all the details are given or not, then translation and back translation, all those are appropriate or not. Then MOUs he has to see. Then MOU is like when MOU would be there when a particular research is coming from outside. Like if we don't have an ethical committee of our own, if KLE is not having an ethical committee on their own, and we need to do a study in Aster Hospital, then we have to have an MOU with the Aster Hospital, and in order to get and along with this MOU, we need to also submit a no objection certificate. Like if the principal investigator is from our college, and we need to do the study in Aster. So first thing is we need to have an MOU, and this researcher, principal investigator, should have a no objection certificate from KLE. So if both are there, then the ethical committee of Aster will, if both are there only, then ethical committee of Aster will even consider our study for ethical review. So that MOU and the no objection certificate and all has to be reviewed by the legal expert. So memorandum of understanding. Then clinical trial agreement. Clinical trial agreement is all the agreements between the research stakeholders, such as sponsor, investigator, sponsor, sponsor, and clinical research associate, CRAs, clinical research associate. All the agreements has to be properly checked by the legal expert. Then insurance document, regulatory approval, other site. So research trial can be multicentric. So other site, then stem cell committee, then HMSC. HMSC is when we have proposals from other countries. Then they have to come through the proper channel. From the HMSC has to deal with that. Health Ministry Screening Committee. So if any such document is there, then legal expert has to see that. Then the basic things such as the proper adherence with the guideline. So these are the functions of the legal expert. Then we have social scientist or philosopher, ethicist, theologian, any of these. So social scientist, philosopher, ethicist, theologian. So he can be affiliated as well as or non-affiliated. Affiliated means from the institution, non-affiliated not from the institution. Then qualification, he should be an individual with social or behavioral science, philosophy, religious qualification and training. So he should be such a person. He should be have in from any background, from social, behavioral science, philosophy, religious qualification and training, and also should have some expertise, and should be a person who is sensitive to the local cultural and moral values. So, and also he can be from NGO involved in health related activities. So these are the qualification. These can be the qualification of a social scientist. It can be a social scientist or a philosopher or an ethicist or a theologian. Then he can be from the institute or non-affiliated, from not related to the institution. For example, you can see in the um, psychiatry ward and all, we can see social workers. Like these social workers will be involved in especially counseling alcoholic patients. So those people and all can be part of the study. Social workers will be there in the psychiatry ward in most of the hospitals. So these people can be part of the ethical committee also. So qualification is can be any individual with social, behavioral science, philosophy, religious qualification and training, and also expertise or be sensitive to this local cultural and moral values. Then he also can be a person from NGO and who is involved in any health related activities. This is a qualification of a social scientist. Then their role is to their basic role is again ethical review, because they know nothing regarding the scientific aspects of the study. So they are mainly for ethical review. Even legal experts are also for basically for the ethical review. So ethical review of the proposal, and they also can review the ICD. ICD is the informed consent document. ICD along with their translation. Then it is his responsibility to see how the research is going to impact, what impact it has on community involvement. If a group of people from a community is involved in the study, whether it has got significant impact. Then socio-cultural context, religious or philosophical context, if any. So whatever study is being going to be initiated, whether that study is going to have any impact on community, socio-cultural context, religious or philosophical context, if any. Then this person can be from the participant group. So he serve as a patient, participant, societal or community representative, and bring in ethical and societal concern. Maybe he can be any patient from the hospital itself who is having maybe any of these qualification, and he has some concern regarding. So any educated person from the community can become this, can do this role. If he is bringing into notice any ethical and societal concern. So in the hospital or from anywhere from the site, a person came to know um, a particular study is going to happen. So because we have discussed like any study should be published in the any like public media. In ethical guideline itself, in the set of ICMR code itself, we discussed all the studies should be uh, made known to the public before even they start doing the study. So if somewhere a person came across that a particular study is going to be done, so he has some concern, ethical as well as society concern. So he can contact the responsible person and discuss it, and if that person can be included in the committee to discuss all these matters. So he can be a patient, participant, societal, um, community representative, and he can bring in the ethical as well as societal concern. So this is the function of a social scientist, philosopher, ethicist, or theologian. So this can be maybe a person who, like even the like previous example, Like if the study is done on mentally retarded people, and the social worker in the psychiatry ward came to know about the study, and he has some concern, ethical as or some societal concern is there. So if he comes and talks, discuss it with the uh, responsible person, then he can be included as a part of the ethical committee, and he can talk, he can discuss while the ethical as well as scientific review is happening. So that is the main role. Social scientist, philosopher, ethicist, or theologian. So he can be affiliated or non-affiliated. Qualification is he can be any individual with social, behavioral science, philosophy, religious qualification, and training as well as expertise. And he can be a person who is sensitive to the local cultural as well as moral value, or from any NGO with via any NGOs that are undertaking health related activities. Then their role is mainly ethical aspect, ethical review of the proposal, and also he has to see the ICD uh, and also its translation, then also assess the impact of the study on the community, then socio-cultural context, religious or philosophical context, if any. Then this person can be a part of the can be a person who is representing the patients or participants. Then any societal or community representative who is bringing some concern, ethical and societal concern uh, for the people. So that is social scientist or philosopher. Next is the lay person. Lay person is non-affiliated. He should be non-affiliated. Lay person should not be from the institution. Then qualification is he should be a literate person from the public or the community. Then he should not have pursued any medical science or health related um, career in the past 5 years. Then he can be a representative, similar to the social scientist, he can be a representative of the community from which the participants are to be drawn. So if a study is done to a particular community only, then a representative from that community who is literate, who is a literate person, can be included as a lay person in the ethical committee. Then he should know the local language, cultural and moral value of the community. Then it is desirable if he is involved in social and community welfare activities. So these are the qualification of the layperson. Layperson should be non-affiliated. She should not be a part of the institution. Then he should be literate person from the public or community, and he should not have pursued any medical degree or any health related career in the past 5 years. Then he can also be a representative from where the participants were recruited. Then he should know their local language as well as their cultural as well as moral value. Then it is desirable if he is involved in social as well as community welfare activities. So these are the qualifications of the layperson. So layperson can be any literate person um, from the community, from the representative of the community, from where the participant is taken. Then their role is mainly ethical review of the proposal as well as the ICD, informed consent document. Then along with the translation, then he also has to evaluate the benefit and risk from the participant's point of view. So from the like he should be thinking about the welfare of the participants only. So he should, like all the ethical committee members, prime objective is the welfare of the participants. So since if he is from the community itself, then he should have like some more. Um, he will be knowing whether it is more beneficial or whether any risk is involved. Even like moral risk or some sensitive issue is there, he can understand because he knows more about his own community. So he has to evaluate benefits and risks from the participant's perspective, and he has to see that whether the benefits justify the risk. So whatever benefit is whether the community is getting, whether it is justifiable. Then He also can be a patient participant or community representative to bring in the ethical and societal concern. Then he also has to assess on the social aspects, if any. So he can also be a person who has come to know that a study is going to happen, and he has some apprehension that this study is going to affect in some or other way. Then he can go and discuss it with the concerned person and become a part of the ethical committee. So these are the functions of a layperson. So layperson qualification is any literate person, and for the past 5 years should not have pursued any health related degrees. Then he can be from a part of the community, from he can be a representative of the community from where the participants has been drawn. Then their function is basically the ethical review and ICD review along with translation. He has to also evaluate benefit and risk from the participants point of view. Then he can also be any person, any literate person who is concerned about the impact of the study on the community. So these are the different people or members of the ethical committee, their qualification as well as their roles. So it is done. 7 people, so a minimum of 7 should be there, and up to 15 people can be a part of the ethical committee. So I think it is done. Please go through the PPT that is shared in the group, and please study that. One day, this week, we will conduct one test, and also inform everyone regarding the attendance, because every 15 days we have to submit the attendance list to the principal sir, and um, from that 15-day data, he will assess who all are the chronic absentees. So far he has not discussed what action will be taken, but we need to submit the, I think this month end we'll be submitting to him the attendance list. So please inform everyone, and they participate in the classes. Class representatives also please send the attendance screenshot also to the respective subject teachers. Thank you. You can leave.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye.
Thank you,
First of
ma'am.
the class is not there. First class was not there. 10:30.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Bye.